Kevin K.O. Roberson, a founding and standing member of musical group The Deal. He is a bass player and musician, composer, as well as a musical producer. A native of Cincinnati, Ohio, K.O.'s musical influences include James Brown, Sly and the Family Stone, Marvin Gaye, and also Bootsy Collins. These influences culminate to create a persona and sound that has his fans coining him as an underscored legend and the bringer of funk. K.O.'s contribution to the music industry has amassed an impressive imprint of nearly 60 million in record sales and streaming, from a career spanning over 40 years. His infusion of soul and funk has created a distinctive sound that is undeniable to the ear and touches most genres of music. K.O. has worked on an incredible amount of projects over his career. Some of these projects received 5 Grammy nominations: Boyz II Men, End of the Road, Johnny Gill, My, Bobby Brown, Every Little Step, and Don't Be Cruel, and Karen White with Superwoman. As one quarter member of the LaFace Records production cartel, K.O. helped to shape the production and sound for notable artists such as Paula Abdul, TLC, Toni Braxton, Whitney Houston, and Michael Jackson. The list of artists with whom K.O. has worked with over time is extensive. His credits also extends into the motion picture industry. He co-produced and performed on such soundtracks as Eddie Murphy's Boomerang and the blockbuster movie Ghostbusters. When asked, K.O. will tell you that there are several monumental highlights of his career, 3 of which include, and I quote, that after years and years of preparation and the manifestation of our dreams, when we were actually hearing The Deal on the radio for the first time. And later he said, and having the honor to work with and co-write Slave to the Rhythm with Michael Jackson, which was released in 2014. And he also said that reuniting all of our original band members for the celebration and lifetime achievements of my friend and bandmate L.A. And that was for the 2016 BET Honors. Now that you have an overview of this massively talented musical giant, let's go all the way back to the beginning. At the tender age of 7, K.O. was the youngest of 4 brothers. Seeing his older brothers, Bobby Alonzo and Doug, play the drums and other percussions, as well as the guitar, this would inspire him in a way that brought him great pride. This was his introduction to the path that would become his life. At the age of 8, K.O., who was banned from touching his brother's equipment, would sneak away to do exactly that in an effort to teach himself. Upon seeing his true dedication and passion for music, K.O.'s parents invested in his very own guitar. Still, 8 years of age, K.O. would later take that same 6-string guitar and remove 2 of the higher tone strings, subconsciously turning it into an unofficial bass guitar. This would later become the catalyst for one of the most noted bass players in the music industry and of our time. At the age of 10, K.O. began to perform at local community centers with his cousin Danny Boy. Soon after, he went on to start a band named The Bad Habits, which included his childhood friends, Ronnie Arlington on guitar and Reggie Griffin on drums. As K.O. entered junior high school, his small band would perform on the porch for neighbors and at local parks. They later added current Deal founder and member Stanley D. Bristol from Cutter Junior High School to the band. That school would later become the famed Cincinnati School of Creative and Performing Arts. The band continued performing and winning all of the local talent shows until high school. The Bad Habits disbanded as the transition to high school approached. K.O. then started performing at nightclubs at the age of 14. After entering high school around the 10th grade, K.O. would embark on a time that would shape up to be life-changing in ways yet unimagined. With a fresh start at Hughes High School, where the most talented students in the city would attend, he noticed that the band that he had constructed previously had garnered a lot of attention. A fellow schoolmate at the time approached him and asked if he was indeed a member of the Bad Habits. That schoolmate's name was Antonio L.A. Reed. That conversation would turn out to become a friendship for life. Reed, who was in a different band and a different class, would stand outside of KO's music class just to observe. As their friendship grew, the dynamic pair would get a lot of opportunities to gig outside of the school. They, along with their music teacher, Terry Brown, would perform at local concert halls, such as the Cincinnati Music Hall. This provided an income and, even more than that, inspiration. KO at this time played with several local groups and bands, namely the Backstabbers, which LA himself later joined. This group would also be disbanded after high school. KO and LA would spend a little while freelancing before embarking upon their next big venture, which was a band named Pure Essence. This band only performed original material. This led to their first song to chart on the local charts, entitled Third Rock, which was later used in a documentary by Q-Tip of the Tribe called Quest. Pure Essence began traveling outside of Cincinnati to Indianapolis just as the disco era began to emerge. They did this in an effort to keep performing live, as a lot of their opportunities had all but dried up at home. They then took to the Chitlin Circuit. The Chitlin Circuit was a collection of performance venues throughout the eastern, southern, and upper Midwest areas of the United States. These venues provided commercial and cultural acceptance for black musicians, comedians, and other entertainers during the era of racial segregation in the United States throughout the 1960s. After touring for a while, KO and LA moved back to Cincinnati with the feeling that there was a need for a change. They believed that they had taken Pure Essence as far as it could go. The pair discussed what would later become known as the Vision, and Pure Essence was disbanded. During this time period of traveling between Cincinnati and Indianapolis, they recruited Stanley D. Bristol, making the trinity of KO, LA, and D as the cornerstone and founders of the deal. The three of them all attended Cincinnati Hughes High School. This was the turning point for KO's and LA's original Vision, once D was added as the first piece to the puzzle. From this point, Carlos Green, also of Hughes High School, was added. Continuing to toggle between Cincinnati and Indianapolis, visiting nightclubs in search of band members, they recruited Stanley "Stick" Burke from Indianapolis, who was at the time playing with the Ohio Players. Although the puzzle was still forming, they began performing to test the previously discussed Vision, just to see how all the elements blended. As the word got out and venues started to fill up, they knew they were on the right track. From this point, they began writing new original songs to fit within the Vision pieces. Subsequently, they hired a keyboardist to perform studio recordings, and that person was a member of the group Midnight Star. Word of this new group got back to Midnight Star, who immediately took notice of the deal and began working together. From this juncture, they had an encounter with another musician that they had previously engaged with. Then, the final piece to the puzzle was laid. Now, with 6 members and a complete band, the deal continued to work with Midnight Star creating their demo. This collaboration led to their music being presented to Solar Records. The demo was such that they were presented a record deal without ever being seen in person. That year was 1983, and in 1984 the deal's first single released, entitled Body Talk, which led to their first national tour with the group DeBarge and with Luther Vandross. Body Talk became their first hit single. The deal would then go on to record 3 albums under Solar Records, along with a recording solo project for their bandmate Kenny "Babyface" Edmonds. Around this time, members were also presented with the opportunity to write and produce with their label mates, The Whispers, resulting in Rocksteady. This contributed to another hit under their belts, which opened the door for more projects to follow. There were many projects that were birthed from the cartel, which includes Karen White, Pebbles, The Boys, Johnny Gill, Bobby Brown, Ralph Tresvant, Paula Abdul, Sheena Easton, After 7, Boyz II Men, Damian Dane, Tony Braxton, TLC, Whitney Houston, Mariah Carey, the Mac Band, Mary Davis, Jermaine Jackson, as well as Michael Jackson.